In 1945, an American Army captain used nothing but a flashlight and a sledgehammer to loot $36 million worth of royal treasure from Germany's House of Hesse. Even crazier, it was the US Army's own postal system that ended up shipping the jewels back to America for her, box by box. This became the largest jewelry heist in US Army history. The thief, Kathleen, wasn't a frontline soldier, a scout, or an intelligence officer. She wasn't even a logistics officer. Her actual job was running the officers' mess hall. Born in Wisconsin in 1902, she was 43 by the time the war ended, had already been through 2 failed marriages, and served in the Women's Army Corps. Her day-to-day job was managing the officers' dining hall, buying groceries, scheduling cooks, checking receipts, basically a clerk in uniform. In June 1945, she got a new assignment. The Army had seized a castle in the Taunus Hills, about 20 miles north of Frankfurt, to use as an officers' club and quarters for female soldiers. Kathleen was handed the keys to the entire castle. The castle was called Friedrichshof, better known as Kronberg Castle, the private residence of the House of Hesse, one of Europe's oldest royal families. The Hesse dynasty went back 500 years and was related by marriage to Queen Victoria, with bloodlines tangled up with the Romanovs, the Hohenzollerns, and the Danish royal family. Their jewelry wasn't just fancy accessories, it was a physical record of 500 years of European royal history, and every diamond had a story behind it. For 5 months, starting the 15th of June 1945, Kathleen lived in the castle full-time. The rooms had been personally decorated by Queen Victoria's own granddaughter. She slept in the bedroom where Kaiser Wilhelm II once hosted foreign monarchs, and wandered halls lined with portraits of royals from countries that had been Germany's enemies, with nobody watching her. The war had just ended, the German government had completely collapsed, and the Inspector General's office in Frankfurt was buried in war crimes files. Nobody had time to question a mess hall clerk. That gave Kathleen the perfect window to act. One morning in November 1945, her assistant came to her with a hammer and said he'd found 2 copper wires buried in a solid brick wall in the basement. That was the hidden marker for a stash of royal treasure that had somehow survived the Nazis untouched. To understand Kathleen's heist, you have to understand why the treasure ended up hidden in that wall in the first place. Even before the US Army moved in, the House of Hesse was already in serious trouble. The family patriarch, Prince Philip, had backed the Nazis early on, joining the party in 1930 and becoming governor of Hesse-Nassau. But in September 1943, Hitler personally ordered his arrest, and he was held in the Flossenburg and Dachau concentration camps. His wife, Princess Mafalda of the House of Savoy, was sent to Buchenwald. In 1944, American bombers hit a weapons factory next to the camp, and she died in the attack. With the head of the family imprisoned and his wife dead, relatives who'd stayed behind in Copenhagen were caught in the crossfire too. Allied bombers kept leveling huge sections of Frankfurt and Hamburg. Nazi officials were seizing valuables from civilians to fund the war effort, and the SS was known to confiscate the entire estates of any noble family that fell out of favor. To protect what was left of the family fortune, the Hesses decided to seal away all their treasure. On the 31st of October 1944, under the direction of the estate manager, Heinrich Lang, the staff built a fake wall in the castle basement. Behind it, they placed a sealed, lined wooden crate with every seam welded shut to make it fully waterproof. Inside was a staggering collection: a platinum bracelet set with 405 diamonds, a platinum watch covered in 606 small diamonds, a 116-carat sapphire from Empress Friedrich's dowry, 282 carats of loose diamonds, solid gold tableware engraved with Kaiser Wilhelm II's imperial eagle, a family Bible dating back to the 1500s, and a solid gold snuff box that had been a gift from Queen Victoria. They poured new concrete over the floor and blended the fake wall in perfectly with the original brick, leaving only 2 thin copper wires as a marker, a code only the family understood. Then they waited for the war to end. The crate sat hidden for 381 days, surviving the bombing of Frankfurt, Nazi asset seizures, and SS searches, only to be found in the end by Kathleen's assistant, who stumbled onto the copper wires. Kathleen knew military regulations well enough not to just dig up the crate that same day. Instead, she took a smarter first step. She called a lawyer. Colonel Jack Durant, 46, was the administrative officer for the local Army Air Force unit and had worked as a practicing attorney in Virginia before the war, with real expertise in occupied territory property law. Kathleen asked him the key question: Under what legal conditions would property in occupied Germany count as ownerless? Durant dug into the occupation regulations the army had issued after victory in Europe and found that property fell into three categories. First, abandoned property with no owner, meaning the owner had died or disappeared with no legal heirs. Second, enemy assets, property belonging to core Nazi officials, which the military had the right to seize outright. Third, protected private property, which had clear legal heirs and full registration records with Swiss banks, and the military was strictly forbidden from touching it. The Hesse jewels fell into the third category. The heirs were known, the ownership records were intact, and stealing it would be a serious military crime. But Kathleen and Durant came up with a twisted loophole. As long as nobody discovered the crate, it was as if the crate never existed. If no one reported the hiding spot missing, then technically nothing had been stolen, and no audit could ever catch a crime that was never reported in the first place. They brought in two more people to help. Major David Watson, a supply officer who'd earned a Bronze Star, knew the entire military postal system inside and out, and a mechanic named Roy Carlton was brought on to keep the construction workers quiet. The whole heist didn't rely on force. It ran entirely on exploiting loopholes in the mail system. Over the next few weeks, the four of them tested the system in stages, gradually feeling out the gaps in the shipping process. The first shipment was just one gold snuff box, labeled as a personal item and sent to Kathleen's sister's house in Hudson, Wisconsin. It arrived without a hitch, no questions asked. The second time, they took apart a diamond bracelet, shipping the gems and the platinum setting separately, with the platinum melted down into an unidentifiable lump, and again it went through clean. The third time, they split up 10 pieces using 4 different fake return addresses, sending packages to multiple US locations, some through regular military mail and some through sealed diplomatic pouches. Under international law, customs had no authority to open diplomatic mail, and every single package made it to the US. By late November 1945, Kathleen had found the fatal flaw: the US Treasury hadn't set up any oversight for this yet. Military mail couldn't be inspected, and packages sent home by officers from occupied Germany were simply taken on faith based on rank. Nobody actually checked what was inside. Kathleen, Durant, and Watson all happened to hold officer rank, and that trust in the system was exactly what they exploited. Once the four of them pried open the crate, Kathleen didn't just start mailing things out. She carefully cataloged everything first. She laid all the jewelry out on the bed in her room at the castle, while Durant photographed each piece and logged the metal weight and stone count. Then they set about erasing anything that could trace the pieces back to their origin. Diamonds were pried out of their settings, gold and silver were melted into featureless blocks, jeweled clasps were stripped off the family Bible, and royal crests on the silverware were filed down until they disappeared. A piece of jewelry with its original setting intact carries a clear history. A 116-carat sapphire is a priceless historical artifact. But once it's just a loose stone, it's nothing more than an ordinary commodity, untraceable. Once everything had been stripped down, they started shipping in earnest, ramping up the pace over time. In December 1945, it was 1 box a week. By January 1946, 3 boxes a week. By February 1946, 7 boxes a week. The shipments went to different addresses: Kathleen's sister's house in Wisconsin, Durant's parents' place in California, and a storage unit Watson rented under a fake name in Chicago. Watson even took leave to fly to Bern, Basel, and Zurich, selling small, loose diamonds on the Swiss jewelry market where nobody asked questions about where they came from, and cashing out in Swiss francs. Durant, meanwhile, used an official trip as cover to travel to Belfast, Northern Ireland, and quietly sold off individual diamonds through an auction house there. By early 1946, 30 boxes, 3,000 pieces of royal treasure in total, had been shipped out of Germany without a single one ever being opened for inspection. Then things started to unravel. In February 1946, Kathleen got new orders. The army was demobilizing the Women's Army Corps in phases, and she had to head back to the States. The orders were both an opportunity and a threat. On one hand, she could bring the last of the smaller pieces home with her and regroup with her partners to figure out how to sell the rest. On the other, once she left the castle, whoever took over next was bound to notice the busted fake wall in the basement. Durant put in for a 30-day leave and rushed to the castle, and on the 28th of May, 1946, he and Kathleen got married. It had nothing to do with love. It was a pure legal maneuver. Under U.S. Military law, spouses couldn't be forced to testify against each other. So as long as neither one talked, prosecutors would have almost no case. A week after the wedding, the two of them left Germany for good. What they didn't see coming was that just 2 weeks later, 4,000 miles away, the House of Hesse discovered the theft. In April 1946, 21-year-old Princess Sophie of Hesse was getting ready to remarry. Her first husband, a Luftwaffe pilot, had been killed in action in 1943. Her mother, Princess Margaret, went to the family's storage room to pull out the wedding jewelry meant for her daughter and found the crate completely empty. This was the one thing Kathleen's crew never saw coming. Germany didn't have a sovereign government yet at that point, and there was no functioning local police force. So Princess Margaret had no choice but to report the theft to the U.S. Army's occupation office in Frankfurt. The staff just logged the complaint, and every time the princess followed up, all she got were vague answers about the case being under review. Eventually, Princess Sophie stepped in herself. Her family connections carried serious weight. Her mother's side of the family was directly related to the British royal family. She was actually a cousin of Prince Philip, the future husband of Queen Elizabeth II. Sophie called London directly, and British officials reached out to the U.S. Army's Criminal Investigation Division in Washington, which immediately made the case top priority. Around the same time, a jewelry dealer in Chicago refused to buy a 282-carat loose diamond of unknown origin from a man calling himself Durant, and called the police instead. Local police brought in the FBI to investigate. On the 2nd of June 1946, Kathleen and Durant were arrested together at the LaSalle Hotel in Chicago. Watson, who'd stayed behind in Germany too long, had already been taken into custody in Frankfurt. After 3 separate military trials, Kathleen was sentenced to 5 years hard labor. Watson got 3 years, and Durant, who'd masterminded the whole scheme, got 15 years. The Army spent 5 years and over $1 million trying to recover the stolen treasure, but in the end, they got back less than half of it. A huge amount of the platinum and gold had already been melted down, and the loose diamonds had been sold off through untraceable overseas channels, gone for good. In August 1951, whatever treasure had been recovered was formally returned to the House of Hesse at Kronborg Castle. Prince Philip, who'd survived 2 concentration camps, came home after being liberated by American forces, only to find that the same army that freed him had stolen 500 years of his family's royal treasure. The Hesse jewels had survived 3 catastrophes: Nazi rule, the Holocaust, and Allied bombing across the country. But they didn't survive 5 months at a U.S. Army officers' club. Even today, scattered across Virginia, Maryland, and California, there are still royal diamonds from that heist that were never recovered. Some are buried in backyards, some are locked in safes that haven't been opened since 1952. These diamonds once belonged to Queen Victoria,